My name is Pickles, and this is Arrow, and we love to backpack. This is a show about the tricks and methods that I've learned over the years for safe and fun backpacking. It's also a show about dogs. Maybe you're a beginner, or maybe you've been hiking for a while. You might have even traveled the world, I don't know. But I'm hoping that maybe I can help you improve, or even get you started into backpacking. I'm not a survivalist, nor am I an expert. I'm just an explorer who wants to share my experiences with you. The ideas that I talk about in my videos are what work for me. I hope to help you find what works best for you. If you are a beginner, learn your limits by starting small. Backpacking is not for everyone. And most importantly, hike your own hike. That means do what is best for you. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Pickles and Arrow Adventure Boys. On this episode, we're going to conduct a survey of 5 commonly used backpacking shelters. Hope you enjoy! Tarps. This is a hex tarp made by Eno. It's called a hex because of its geometric shape. The tarp is the most basic type of shelter used for backpacking. It is also the most versatile, and can be pitched many different ways. You can use it by itself, as a shelter for rain, a windbreaker, or a fly for your hammock. Its use is completely dependent upon your needs. Here are the pros of using a tarp as a shelter. You will carry significantly less weight, and it takes up less volume in your pack. The tarp gets an A+ rating when backpacking with dogs. That is due to its customizable nature. It gives your dog a 360-degree view of your surroundings. So if you want your dog to be vigilant for people or animals who may approach in the night, your dog will have a great view. It also provides you with an excellent view, especially if you're camped near an amazing vista or you enjoy stargazing. A tarp is spacious, and it gives you and your dog lots of room. If you stop for lunch while hiking on a rainy day and would like to get out of the rain, then the tarp also makes a great temporary shelter while on the trail. Here are the cons of using a tarp as a shelter. A simple tarp provides zero protection against insects. It is possible to use bug netting in conjunction with the tarp, however this will require some additional fastenings. If your dog has a 360-degree view of the outside, they will remain hypervigilant throughout the night, and both you and the dog will get little rest. This can be an important issue if your dog is trekking on a high-mileage weekend. Just like you, your dog needs adequate rest. Here are some tips. This is called a prusik knot. It's a very useful knot for creating a ridgeline that you can hang your tarp from. The prusik can either be used to pitch a tarp between 1 to 2 trees, or for making a freestanding pitch with trekking poles and stakes. Use carabiners to fasten your tarp to the ridgeline. The prusik slides in or out to tighten or loosen the tautness of the ridgeline. Use a trekking pole at the entrance to create that classic A-frame tent shape. Secure the back section of the tarp near your feet with 2 stakes. This shape is great for shedding water away from you. With the opening angled down towards the opposite end, the water moves towards your feet and away from you. You can pitch your tarp either high or low to the ground. A low pitch is good for strong wind conditions and rain. A high pitch also gives you great visibility on a starry night. In colder conditions, it's not a bad idea to pitch the foot of the shelter towards the wind. Just take a brief test of the wind with a finger to determine wind direction before setting up. Pitching the tarp aerodynamically will also reduce wind resistance and reduce the likelihood that the wind will steal your tarp during the night. You will want to pack a ground cloth to protect your sleeping bag and mattress from sharp objects that may be hiding in the ground. Arrow gives the tarp a 5 out of 5 stars for versatility, 3 stars for sturdiness against high winds and rain, 5 out of 5 stars for camping with dogs, 0 stars for bug control, 5 stars for nocturnal bathroom trips, and 5 stars for weight. Tarp Tint. This is a Pro Trail tarp tent made by Tarp Tint. This is an older version of the Pro Trail model that is constructed of silicone impregnated nylon, also called sil nylon. This shelter is the second most basic type used for backpacking. It's not as versatile as a tarp, but you get the benefits of a hybrid tent construction. Here are the pros of using a tarp tent as a shelter. They are extremely lightweight and take up very little volume in your pack. The tarp tent gets a B+ rating when backpacking with large dogs. It's definitely large enough for you to hug your fur buddy, but it might be a tight squeeze for a good night's rest. It can be pitched low to the ground for good wind and water control. Just lower the trekking poles and adjust the stakes and guy lines. It also has a lightweight bathtub floor with built-in bug netting. Here are the cons of using a tarp tent as a shelter. It's built like a tent, so versatility is limited, and it's not rigid like a pop-up tent, which can be easily turned upside down to remove dirt. It's not as easy to pitch as a conventional pop-up. but with some practice, it's worth the trouble. You must also pitch the tarp tent on soft ground since the anchoring stakes are very important for a correct pitch. Pitching on a hard, durable surface such as a patch of igneous rock would be very challenging, if not impossible. I've used the tarp tent on a mountain bald at 4,500 feet. It held up very well in heavy wind conditions, though it flapped violently during the night. Here are some tips. Tarp tent is built with trekking poles in mind. A durable ring is provided for pitching with your poles. This is a weight saver since you are not required to carry the traditional tent poles included, and it also makes your trekking poles a multi-use item. The profile is very similar to a conventional tarp and is great for shedding water away from you. With the opening angled down towards the opposite end, the water moves towards your feet and away from you. Pitching the tarp tent aerodynamically will also reduce wind resistance and reduce the likelihood that the wind will destroy your shelter during the night. The tarp tent comes with Velcro fasteners on the 2 opening wings. This reduces weight and provides you with a vestibule where you can store your gear away from the rain. The built-in floor is slick, and your air mattress may slide in the night. A good way to combat this problem is to place Velcro dots with sticky backings on the floor. This will produce additional friction. The Velcro dots are small and lightweight, and if used wisely will not contribute to the overall weight of your shelter. Arrow gives the tarp tent a 2 out of 5 stars for versatility, 3.5 stars for sturdiness against high winds and rain, 4 stars for camping with large dogs, 5 stars for bug control, 3 stars for nocturnal bathroom trips, and 4.5 stars for weight. 3-season pop-up tents. This is a conventional pop-up tent called the Slick Rock. It's made by North Face. It's rated for 3 seasons. This is an older model pop-up that was manufactured about 20 years ago. It's constructed with sturdy ripstop nylon fabric. This pop-up is the most common type of shelter used for backpacking. It's super versatile since the tent can be pitched on virtually any surface, and since it is freestanding, it does not require stakes or guidelines. Here are the pros of using a pop-up as a shelter. They are very sturdy in inclement weather and can shelter multiple dogs and people. They are also very easy to set up. The pop-up gets a straight A rating when backpacking with large dogs. You might be able to fit an additional human plus an arrow, or 1 human, an arrow, and a boo-boo. Pop-ups offer good wind resistance, since the waterproof fabric is typically fastened all the way to the ground. They are almost always built with a bathtub floor and bug netting. I've used pop-ups in many different weather types and environments. They are a tried and true shelter for good weather protection and sturdiness. The high wall dome shape is also good for shedding light snow. Here are the cons of using a pop-up as a shelter. They tend to be the heaviest type of shelter when compared with tarps, tent tarps, and hammocks. Pop-ups provide less ventilation than tarps, so they can get a bit stuffy. When expecting no wind conditions and comfortable weather, you can leave the tent fly off for great ventilation. The 3-season Slick Rock does provide some limited vestibule space, though its coverage is not as good as tarps and mountaineering tents. Here are some tips. When setting up, make sure to always push the tent poles through the fabric. If you pull, the poles will come apart, which will make pitching more difficult. You could pitch the pop-up with little consideration for wind direction. However, some tents, such as the Slick Rock, have a built-in ventilation system that are most effective when the ports are pitched into the wind. Make sure that the biggest part of the tarp is pointed into the prevailing wind. In rain, make sure to pitch your tent taut with stakes. A taut tent will shed water better than a tent that is slack. Most pop-ups are built with additional loops so you can attach guy lines for better strength in windy conditions. Take the zipper and pull it where your head is going to lay. This gives you easy access for those late-night bathroom trips. Remember though, none of these shelters, even the pop-ups, are adequate protection from animals in extreme conditions. If you do not store your food and smelly items outside of your tent, you may be inviting some unwanted visitors. Also, do not pitch your shelters near dead trees or otherwise hazardous environs. Boo Boo gives the pop-up a 5 out of 5 stars for versatility, 5 stars for sturdiness against high winds and rain, 4 stars for camping with large dogs, 5 stars for bug control, 4 stars for nocturnal bathroom trips, and 2.5 stars for weight. Hammocks. This is called a Hennessy Hammock Expedition ASIM. It's one of the older models that emerged when camping hammocks first became popular. It's constructed with sturdy ripstop nylon, no-seam netting, and Velcro for the entrance enclosure. There are many hammock brands out there, so give a few different ones a try. I keep this one around because it's still a good shelter. ASIM stands for asymmetrical loading. Unlike the earliest hammock concepts, the person using this hammock does not lay in a perfect alignment with the ridgeline. The purpose of the ASIM is so that the user can lay relatively flat, otherwise they would lay with their back in an arch, which is not comfortable for most side sleepers. Hammocks are versatile since they can be hung over any surface, including water. The only requirement is that you find two relatively close trees or posts that are weight-bearing. Here are the pros of using a hammock as a shelter. Hammocks are extremely versatile because they are completely customizable. It can be paired with many different types of tarps and devices for different environments and uses. Hammocks also have many different quick-release attachment devices, so setup can be really fast. This is important if there is heavy precipitation. If you're taking down the hammock in the rain, you can leave your rainfly up while you work underneath. You can also use a hammock as a chair. Here are the cons of using a hammock as a shelter. In colder weather, you must use an underquilt, or at least a sleeping bag made to wrap around the top and bottom of your hammock. The large space between you and the ground allows conduction of heat from your body into the surrounding air. Without some form of insulation, you will get cold in cooler weather. Unless it's a windless summer night, the wind almost never stops. The wind can add to the chill factor. You also won't be able to snuggle with your large dog. While you can certainly try to invite your buddy into the hammock with you, neither will be comfortable. And most hammocks do have weight restrictions. Your dog may have to sleep on the ground under you and the tarp. Depending on your setup, bathroom trips may be complicated, though during the summer months, getting out is a breeze. Here are some tips. The most important tip for using a hammock is to be aware of your surroundings. Make sure that the trees you are attaching to are not dead or weak and can bear the strain you will be putting on them. Pitch your hammock high so that your butt doesn't touch the ground. Arrow gives the hammock a 4 out of 5 stars for versatility, 5 stars for sturdiness against high winds and rain, 1 star for camping with large dogs, 4 stars for bug control, 3 stars for nocturnal bathroom trips, and 4 stars for weight. 4-season mountaineering tents. The Roadrunner is a conventional pop-up tent that is very similar to the Slick Rock made by North Face. This is an older model pop-up that was manufactured about 20 years ago. Unlike most 3-season tents, this shelter has a rain snowfly that covers the entire tent shelter. While I don't recommend using this for most backpacking trips, this tent is appropriate for high alpine and snowy environments. It's reasonably versatile since it can be pitched on virtually any surface. However, the entire purpose of this tent is to shelter against snow, high precipitation, and high wind conditions, so you must have soft ground that will allow you to pitch the fly and stakes with guidelines. Here are the pros of using a 4-season mountaineering tent as a shelter. This tent is super good at protecting you from the harsh elements. The Mountaineering Roadrunner also provides abundant vestibule space for storing gear. Here are the cons of using a 4-season mountaineering tent as a shelter. Unless you are splitting the parts of this tent among the people using it, it is very heavy and unwieldy. Ventilation in this tent is almost non-existent. While there are vents, the air will become stagnant, especially on warm, rainy days. Here are some tips. When setting up, make sure to always push the tent poles through the fabric. If you pull, the poles will come apart and make pitching more difficult. You can pitch this pop-up with little consideration for wind direction. When camping in rain, make sure to pitch your tent taut with stakes. A taut tent will shed water better than a tent that is slack. Remember though, none of these shelters, even the pop-ups, are adequate protection from animals in extreme conditions. If you do not store your food and smelly items outside of your tent, you may be inviting some unwanted visitors. Also, do not pitch your shelters near dead trees or otherwise hazardous environs. Boo Boo gives the 4-season pop-up 4 out of 5 stars for versatility, 5 stars for sturdiness against high winds and rain, 5 stars for camping with large dogs, 5 stars for bug control, 3 stars for nocturnal bathroom trips, and 1 star for weight.